Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson is going to be the next star for the Volunteers. I'll tell you why here on a Thursday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Big shout out to our friends over at FanDuel, where you can make every moment more. Go check out FanDuel.com, where you get a bonus or a boost daily here in the summer months. That is FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's show, going to be a fun one. Dylan Sampson is going to be a star, and I'm going to tell you exactly why here in a matter of a couple of seconds. What about the other running backs? Cam Seldon, injury status. Peyton Lewis, true freshman. Deshaun Bishop, Khalifa Keith. The others in segment number 2, and of course what Tennessee is going to be missing at the running back position in 2024. And then we're going to get into Rick Butler, who's got boots on the ground in Dallas, Texas for Tennessee in the SEC Media Days. That is coming up in segment number 3. You can always watch us, listen to us, download us, subscribe to us, all that for free, completely for free, wherever you get your podcast. And of course, Locked On Vols, the YouTube channel. Tell your friends about it. Let's continue to get this show in front of more and more Tennessee fans. And I can't thank you every dayers enough for doing that, making us your first listen each and every day. All right, so let's get into it. Dylan Sampson, I believe, is going to be the next star for Tennessee. Of course, you say goodbye to Jabari Small. You say goodbye to Jaylen Wright. We'll get into that here in a little bit of a moment and everything that those guys accomplished throughout their Tennessee careers. But Dylan Sampson has been here and been the third option in the backfield for Tennessee really for the last, 3 seasons. So far, throughout his career, he has rushed for 1,001 yard on 164 carries, 13 touchdowns. He averages 6.1 yards per carry. He's also caught 20 catches, 20 receptions for 199 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. That 1 receiving touchdown came against Virginia, the very first touchdown of the season for Tennessee in 2023. He's played in 22 career games. He does have 1 start. That was in the Citrus Bowl last year. He owns 3 separate 100-yard rushing games. And, of course, he's a really good standout student, 2-time All-SEC academic, and he's a part of the Tennessee leadership team. He's a junior. He's not a newcomer. He's been in the system for going on 3 years now. He's got real SEC experience. He has not only played in this league, but he's taken over games at points and times. You look back at what he did in 2023. And the game that stands out to me, obviously outside of Virginia, where he had 4 touchdowns total, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He had that receiving touchdown on the, the running back swing out there to the flat, there in the opener against Virginia. He kind of vultured away a couple of touchdowns when Jaylen Wright or Jabari Small got the ball all the way down to the red zone or into the 10-yard line, and they were tired, obviously, because you're going tempo. And Dylan Sampson came in and ran the ball in. So I like to call him a little bit of a vulture there in those situations. But he had a really, really good game against Virginia, no doubt about it. He had a solid game against UTEP, ran for 139 yards, and did UTSA, and did a really, really good job there in that non-conference game in week 3. But then he didn't see an awful lot of action, against Florida. And that frustrated him. That frustrated him an awful lot, and had some social media posts out there. It's like, oh, well, it's Dylan Sampson. I'm happy. He's a competitor. He wanted to play. But he took over the game at Kentucky. This is where I'm getting at right now. He absolutely took over the game at Kentucky. Had 91 yards from scrimmage in the 4th quarter alone against the Kentucky Wildcats on the road in a game that Tennessee had to have. Jaylen Wright a bit banged up. Jabari Small a bit banged up. And so Dylan Sampson took over in the 4th quarter. Ended that game when Tennessee was trying to run out the clock there in the 4th quarter. 17 rushes, 76 yards, had the game clinching or game sealing touchdown there in the 4th quarter. Had 4 receptions, 39 yards. He just took over that game. One of the better performances for any Tennessee football player in 2023, in my opinion, that 4th quarter alone. And from that game on, I'm like, man, Tennessee's got something really special. I already knew that Tennessee had a really good option in Dylan Sampson, a really good change of pace, quality depth. But from that 4th quarter on against Kentucky, I'm like, Tennessee's got a future star in Dylan Sampson. As we know, Tennessee, everything Tennessee does is from the run game. It builds from the run game. Josh Heupel and Dallas, I'm pointing at my TV, you can't see it off screen, but Josh Heupel, I sat here right here on Tuesday and said, and he's on the set of SEC Nation, and I forgot who it was, but everybody's talking about, like, everybody likes to say you throw it, but really you look at the stats, and you led the SEC in rushing last year, and Josh Heupel's like, oh, but the run game it's where it started every year, everywhere we've been. It always starts with the run. And it's the biggest misconception in college football, in my opinion, when it comes to offensive philosophies. Everybody's like, oh, well, Josh Heupel throws it all over the yard. Sure, he does, but it all starts from the run game. And so Dylan Sampson's going to have ample opportunities now, moving from the 1B, or excuse me, the second option behind a 1B in Jabari Small last year with the 1A Jaylen Wright. He is going to be the dude this year, and I can't wait to see what he can do. You look back at Dylan Sampson as a recruit, class of 2022, if you remember. He was a on-3 industry ranking 4-star, prospect number 393 overall in the country, 31st running back, 20th prospect out of the state of Louisiana that is loaded with prospects. We know about that. That was industry ranking across the board. He was a 4-star at On3, a 4-star at 247, a 3-star at ESPN that just doesn't know what it's doing in recruiting. I'll never not take the opportunity to slam ESPN recruiting. And Rivals.com, a 3-star as well. Dylan Sampson has been a solid piece for Tennessee each of the last couple of years. And another thing why I think he's going to be a star, not just on the field, he is a leader, and I mentioned this a little bit ago. Dylan Sampson, as a sophomore last year, was on Tennessee's leadership council. He is one of the team captains. He is one of the leaders. You go and you watch some Tennessee practices in spring this past spring, March, April. Dylan Sampson's the one, leading the charge there in the beginning, breaking things down, getting on guys, telling them to hustle and to work hard and to not give in to the momentary lapses where you're tired, and don't let your mind trick your body, right? Your mind's saying you're tired, you want to stop, but your body can still go. And he's one of those leaders and getting after it, essentially. Dylan Sampson, I thought he would have been a perfect fit to go to SEC Media Days if he would have taken the place of one of the three that were there. My point is, he's a really, really good player, and I think he's going to shine in this Tennessee offense this year. Sure, is he as dynamic as Jaylen Wright? Probably not. Is he as fast? Probably. He's pretty quick. Maybe not as fast, but he's pretty quick. Is he agile enough? Is he tough enough? Absolutely. Is he Jaylen Wright? Not necessarily. But I do think he has the potential to be one of the better running backs in Tennessee's offense of the Josh Heupel era. And that's saying a lot. And I'll get into that here in a moment because we're going to talk about what Tennessee's lost in Jabari Small and Jaylen Wright. But Dylan Sampson, I think, is going to be the next star for Tennessee. And sure, I'm already including Nico as being a star, even though he's not been a consistent everyday starter. But Nico came to Tennessee as a star. You know what I'm saying? James Pierce is a star. I think Dylan Sampson is going to be the next star for Tennessee because of everything I've laid out for you here in segment number 1. So I'm excited to see what Dylan Sampson is going to be. I can't wait to watch him, and I'm sure you can as well. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about who else in that running back room. Cam Seldon, what's his injury status, plus what's Tennessee losing at the running back position compared to last season. All that and more is coming up next as we continue on here with a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games. And the sports, they're not sporting like I want them to. But over at FanDuel, lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets, and anytime I'm in the mood, I get sports all in the safe, secure, easy-to-use app by downloading it on the App Store or Google Play. It's FanDuel. FanDuel, it's America's number one sports book. Why is it America's number one sports book? Well, let me tell you, because this summer, all customers, not just new customers, not just existing customers, all customers, if you have an account over at FanDuel.com, are going to get a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com, start making the most of your summer today. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel, it's America's number one sports book. FanDuel, it's where you can make every moment more. FanDuel.com. Hey, welcome back into your Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Make Locked On SEC your second listen here today. your second watch as well. SEC Media Days are wrapping up today in Dallas, Texas. Give Chris Gordy a listen and a watch. Also, for you big-time Volunteer fans, if you are members of the Vol Club, the Tennessee Collective, hey, they have an app that is out right now. The Volunteer Club, literally just go to your Android store or Apple store, just type in Volunteer Club. It should be the first thing that pops up. And the app is really, really cool. You can buy merch. You can watch shows like Vol Club Confidential. Locked On Vols is on there. VolQuest content is on there. A couple of other things. SEC Shorts, I believe, is on there. But just another place that you can consume Locked On Vols is on the Volunteer Club app. Plus, a chance to support the student athletes and give to Tennessee's NIL fund. So, a really, really, really cool app there. I encourage you to check out the Volunteer Club app. All right, so Cam Seldon. Everybody's super, super pumped about Cam Seldon, obviously. Cam Seldon is a guy that was a highly, highly touted prospect, 4-star rated prospect over at On3, class of 2023. Considered the 181st player in the country by On3, the 76th rated player in the country by 247 Sports. ESPN has him as the 119th rated player. Again, this is a cycle ago. On3 industry rankings, when it was all said and done, for Cam Seldon, 141st in the country, 4th athlete, and 3rd out of the state of Virginia. He was listed as an athlete because he played a lot of receiver in high school, kick returner, punt return, played a little quarterback, played a little running, did a little bit of everything. He is a running back here for Tennessee, and he got his first taste of what a running back 2 would be looking like in terms of carries and all that in the Citrus Bowl. Did a good job. I believe off the top of my head, I think he had 10 carries for 51 yards. Thought he did a really, really nice job on the day, and I thought Dylan Sampson did a great job in that game as kind of his coming out party as a starter in the system. But Cam Seldon's got a unique blend of size and speed. He's listed at 6'1.5", 6'2", 215 pounds, has great speed, has great strength, has great durability, and I'm super pumped to see kind of what he looks like in this offense on an every down basis. Sure, he won't be the lead back, but you're going to see him an awful lot. Jerry Mack was stoked last year. I know he's off with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, but knowing you were going to lose Jaylen Wright, knowing that if you lost Jabari Small, if you did not exercise that COVID 5th year of eligibility like was on the table for Jabari Small, you were going to be okay, because Cam Seldon is a guy that's going to thrive in this offense, and he certainly will have that opportunity this year. Now, the big question is, when is he going to be full go, full healthy? Of course, he missed the back half of spring. Shoulder surgery, had an injury there, and he's ahead of pace is what I'm hearing, and he's feeling good, looking good. Now, does that mean he's going to be full go ready for contact day 1 of fall camp? No. Does that mean he's going to be full go ready 100% week 1, week 2? I don't think so. We'll see. But for the first couple of games of the season, he might not be an option, and that's why you got to rely on Deshaun Bishop, local prospect from Carnes High School, who was a redshirt last year after getting hurt in training camp. High upside. Khalifa Keith, who was a 3-star rated prospect out of the state of Alabama, class of 2023 as well, coming in with Nico and some of these other guys. Cam Seldon, bigger option guy, about 225, 230 pounds. You have to rely on him, as well as Peyton Lewis. Peyton Lewis is a guy that was in the class of 2024. Tennessee staff loves him. Of course, Jerry Mack recruited him. Now it's Darrell Sims that's going to be here, and he's done a really, really good job of connecting and coaching this group, and I think Darrell Sims is going to be a star in this league. I've mentioned that before. Peyton Lewis is going to be a guy that contributes this year. However, Peyton Lewis did miss all of spring. Peyton Lewis missed spring when he had a cleanup operation after a senior year of high school, but he was an Under Armour All-American. He was an On3 industry ranking 4-star athlete across the board, a top 125 athlete in the country, running back in the country prospect in the country per the On3 industry rankings. On3 specifically had him as high as number 67 in the class, this being Peyton Lewis. And it's going to be important to see when Peyton Lewis gets into fall camp, because he missed spring, what he truly looks like in this offense, because we don't know right now. We think that he's going to be really good and really durable and be a nice option to back up Dylan Sampson, and when healthy, back up Cam Seldon as well. But we just don't know yet. He will be full go. He'll be ready for full contact day 1 of July 31st of Tennessee training camp, which is good, because Peyton Lewis is going to need to get a little baptism by fire, because Tennessee's certainly going to be relying on him. I like Peyton Lewis coming up as a prospect. I think that he brings a lot to the table. He's fast. Really did a great job. He was a state champion in the 100 and 200 meters as a junior in high school, ran a sub 11-second 100-meter yard dash, which is really good. He had a personal best of 10.50 seconds. That is elite in terms of the 100-yard meter, and so I think Peyton Lewis is going to bring a whole lot to the table. Quickly, before we get into our guest, Rick Butler of Rocky Top Insider, what is Tennessee losing at the running back position? We can't really have this running back conversation and talking about how excited we are without breaking down what Tennessee is losing, and that's obvious here. Jaylen Wright, such a phenomenal athlete for Tennessee last year, broke out truly, went ahead, got drafted in the 4th round by the Miami Dolphins, played in 34 career games, 12 starts, most of those coming last year, accumulated 2,297 rushing yards on 368 carries, averaged 6.2 yards per attempt, finished 13th in Tennessee history in rushing yardage, totaled 18 rushing touchdowns, and 1,367 yards after contact. Whew, that is really, really good. He had all-purpose yards of 2,468 in his career, only one of 2 players in school history with multiple rushes of 80-plus yards in a career. The other was LaMarcus Coker. We're talking about college football 25, the video game. LaMarcus Coker was a beast back in NCAA. What was it, like 2013, 2012, whatever year it was? LaMarcus Coker in that category. His 4 rushing touchdowns in 2024, 2023 were like, they were all over 40 yards. One was like 46, one was 54, one was 62, one was 82, one was 81. He was a beast, and he was phenomenal, and he had such a great year last year. And Jabari Small as well took a back seat in 2023, but he'd been the dude for the first 2 years of the Josh Heupel era. 45 career games, 24 starts, 2,122 rushing yards total in his career, 24 total rushing touchdowns, ranks 12th all-time in Tennessee rushing history, or 12th all-time in Tennessee in total career touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, ranked 16th in UT career rushing yardage, over 2,369 all-purpose yards in his career, 4 career 100-yard rushing games, signed on with, I believe, the Tennessee Titans as an undrafted free agent for minicamp. I took a back seat last year, but a really solid and really productive player for Tennessee throughout his career. And it was awesome to see. A little three-star scat back from Memphis was kind of who he was when he got to Tennessee as a prospect. So I'm pleased with how his career turned out. I think he did a really, really great job, that being Jabari Small here at Tennessee. But my point is, you're losing 2 experienced guys who were incredible and, of course, who carried the load, and Dylan Sampson helped, but carried the load for Tennessee last year that finished tops in the SEC with 204 yards per game on average rushing, 23 touchdowns. Tennessee finished 2,663 overall yards on the ground, averaging 5.4 yards a pop. Tennessee was the best rushing team in the SEC last year, and Tennessee was a top 10 rushing team in the country last year. So you're losing a lot of experience. But as I highlighted in segment number 1, I think Dylan Sampson is going to be a star. It was a three-headed monster, a 3-back rotation last year with Jerry Mack. What will that look like this year with Darrell Sims? Will Dylan Sampson get 20-plus carries, 25 touches a game? Will it be 15 and 10, split between Cam Seldon and Dylan Sampson when Seldon's healthy? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But it's going to be led by Dylan Sampson, and he will be a star. And he's going to put this Tennessee offense, this Tennessee rushing attack, right back where it left off in 2023, despite the departures of NFL running back Jaylen Wright and one of the better running backs in Tennessee history, especially this millennium, Jabari Small. Hey, when we come back, Rick Butler of Rocky Top Insider joins the show from Dallas, Texas at SEC Media Days. That is coming up next as we continue on here with a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Hey, Rick, Tennessee's Day in the Spotlight at SEC Media Days, of course, was on Tuesday. It was Cooper Mays, Keenan Pili, Omari Thomas, along with Josh Heupel. Overall, big takeaways from Tennessee's kind of couple hours there in the spotlight with all the college football world's eyes upon them.
Yeah, Eric. Josh Heupel came into the building flanked by about 900 pounds of enforcement with those 3 players that you mentioned. But ultimately, what one of my big takeaways was just kind of early in the day, you could see them as they were getting settled in. hey, these guys have been here before and they've done it. This is obviously year 4 for Josh Heupel doing SEC Media Days. And you even had a guy like Omari Thomas who was coming for his back-to-back, his second straight SEC Media Day. So I felt like a lot of it was business as usual for Tennessee, just kind of going about their business. But one of the other big things that Tennessee's not got a lot of drama going on right now. You know, you look around the league and you see coaching changes and, you know, you remember the will he, won't he kind of movement from the offseason. Obviously, Texas and Oklahoma coming in. So, you know, Georgia was before Tennessee yesterday. And, man, Kirby Smart fielded about every sort of driving question you could imagine. So there's a lot of drama going on in the league right now, but there's not a lot of drama going on at Tennessee. So they really kind of are flying under the radar. But ultimately, that was one of my big takeaways just at the beginning was, hey, their business as usual. They've done this before. They're just getting in, getting out, and then moving on with their day.
Yeah, that was kind of my biggest takeaway, and really kind of going into SEC Media Days when the players were announced, and I think those 3 guys did a great job. I don't think you could have went wrong. Those are 3 great ambassadors and team leaders, and they'll be captains and all that. But, you know, people want to hear from James Pierce. People want to hear from Nico Iamaleava, but Tennessee didn't. I mean, Josh Heupel didn't want to do that. You just want to kind of go in there because you're right. You got Georgia, who is the class of college football, obviously, and of course with all the off the field stuff. You got Oklahoma on that same day. You got Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri, who's riding high right now. Tennessee truly did just kind of fly under that radar, and I think if you're Josh Heupel, that is exactly what you wanted. You didn't want to put any bulletin board material. You didn't want to have any crazy quotes. Not that anybody else would to say crazy quotes, but it was just kind of like get in, get out. Oh, Tennessee was here? Oh, yeah, they were here. That's okay if you're Josh Heupel.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of Eric, you and I have been covering this Josh Heupel era for many years now, and that's the way we've seen it unfold. We know that he's not a guy who's going to try to stir the pot. We know that he's not a guy who's going to, like you said, try to give bulletin board material to other teams. But, Josh Heupel was asked point blank on the main stage, hey, why did you not bring Nico Iamaleava to this day? He answered it by saying, it's not about why I didn't bring Nico. It's about why I brought these other 3. Now, obviously, like we're saying, those 3 guys are veteran presences. They're great ambassadors for the program. They're going to be rising seniors, 5th-year seniors, some even more with Keenan Pili, obviously. But ultimately, I wasn't surprised at all that Nico Iamaleava was not brought. James Pierce Jr. kind of in that same boat as well. Tennessee, like we said, just kind of went about their business. Now, there was a couple of tidbits of information that came out throughout the day that I'm sure we'll get into. But, yeah, I mean, like we said, everybody else had the drama. Everybody else had the storylines. Tennessee just handled business with a couple of cowboy hats on, I might add.
Well, the biggest storyline for Tennessee, regardless if he was not there, was Nico Iamaleava. And why not? I mean, years and years of anticipation. You got your first start in the bowl game. He did phenomenal. Now he's going to be the starter, week to week to week and all that. What's been the talk, around Dallas this week from maybe other media partners or maybe other players or coaches about Nico and really the anticipation of what has been building since really November of 2021?
Yeah, I don't want to steal directly the word that you just said, but I think there is sort of this unknown anticipation where you do know the route that Nico has kind of made to get to Tennessee. You know what he was able to do at the Citrus Bowl last year, and you saw that, hey, this might be a little bit more of a Tennessee offense that can run a bit more of the tempo than they did previously in 2023. So I do think that there's anticipation around it. But what I thought that also Josh Heupel did yesterday was a bit of managing expectations. I'm sure that behind closed doors, Nico does have the confidence of the coaching staff, of the team. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about him with the fans and the media, but there were a couple times throughout the day that he said, hey, look, he's a young player. We're getting him involved, but we also need him to take those steps. And we believe that he has. We believe that he will. But I thought he did a little bit of managing expectations. And again, not to say that, he's being picked as a Heisman favorite, although he does sort of land these top 10 odds, which is interesting for a second-year player. But I do think that there was a little bit of, hey, we know that there's a lot of talk about our quarterback. He's doing great. He's making the strides that we need him to. But we're also going to need him to play above a second-year type player when he takes the field next year. So I did think there was a little bit of managing of expectations, but he was also very complimentary towards him as well. He talked about, Eric, what you and I have heard in the past of when he got in the building on day one, that's Nico, that is, he wanted to earn the respect of his teammates, not just come in as a 5-star quarterback. Josh Heupel raved about just his work ethic as he's gone on. So things that we've certainly heard from this Tennessee coaching staff in the past, but there is a lot of buzz and anticipation about what, Nico will bring to the table. I think there was a little bit of disappointment that he wasn't there because people wanted to ask those hard questions. But hey, you're not always going to get what you want, especially when Josh Heupel has his way of doing things with the veterans. So a lot of anticipation, a lot of buzz, but some managing of expectations from Josh Heupel on the stage.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised that Josh Heupel didn't filibuster anymore, than he did. I think his opening statement was around 6.5 minutes or so. I mean, come on, man. Like, was it who earlier in the week talked for 17 minutes? Was it Beamer? I don't know.
I think it was, and then I'll tell you what, Eli Drinkwitz had a long monologue to open his as well, where he started with Monty Kiffin, he went to Lane Kiffin, and then he made a public declaration for Mike Leach to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. So he had a big filibuster before his.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it, right? You get like 30 minutes or whatever you need to take up as much time as you can. That would be fewer questions. Chatting here with Rick Butler, Rocky Top Insider, SEC Media Days this week. All the talks on Nico and everything. Obviously, college football playoff expansion this year, you get 12 teams. Look at the SEC. There's like 8 teams in conversation. I think the SEC is going to get 4 in no matter what. But, this will be the first year we'll see exactly what happens. But for Tennessee to reach that goal of the college football playoff, it's a team sport. I recognize that. But kind of back to Nico, it feels like the key is Nico's got to be maybe not necessarily Hendon Hooker, but you need to be more Hendon than Joe of last year, meaning the quarterback position's got to hit. It's got to be not just good. It's got to be above average. It's got to be slightly better than good. And I think that's the key because the way that Tennessee's roster's built, I think defensively, there'll be a learning curve in the back end, but I like the defense. I like the playmakers on the outside. I like the offensive line, and I think the running back position will get figured out. I think that, when it comes down to it, it's all about the quarterback and not trying to put all the expectations of the world on Nico Iamaleava, but I truly do believe, and I want to know if you agree, if Nico hits, do you think Tennessee is not only in that conversation, but maybe a college football playoff team this year?
I do, Eric. I think that if Nico is able to sort of find that inside of himself and really work with this offense, and like you alluded to me, just that one game in the Citrus Bowl, man, he showed some dynamic traits. Now, it wasn't always there. Obviously, that was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing as they went into bowl season. But I go back to last season. I think that one of the problems that the Tennessee offense suffered during it was just their lack of sustained drives. There were way too many 3-and-outs for the Tennessee offense last year, which put the defense in trouble. Now, this Tennessee defense has never, they've always sort of known what their job is, and their job is to follow the offense and get the ball back to them. But I felt like there were just way too many times last year where Tennessee got out in 3 downs. They were right back off the field, and a tired defense with heavy legs were heading back on. I think one of the biggest things for Nico and what he can do with this Tennessee offense is being able to sustain drives a little bit longer. I think that because he's a little bit more dynamic with his legs. I think that because we'll obviously have to see what his passing game looks like in an SEC competition, but what we've heard, I feel confident in that he can match up with Josh Heupel and Joey Halzle and what they want to do with the offense. So to me, one of the biggest keys going into this season for not just Nico, but the offense is there's got to be more sustained drives for Tennessee so that they can push the ball, they can move it down the field, they can use the run game to their advantage again and be able to give their defense, which I agree with you, I think is going to be a little bit more improved, a little bit more of an advantage by having a little bit more breath in their lungs when they step back out onto the grass.
Last thing here, Rick, I want to get your take on this. Biggest / most important home game on the schedule for Tennessee this year, and biggest / most important game overall for Tennessee. And maybe it's the same game, maybe it's the same team. Biggest game, biggest home game.
It's hard not to be immediately drawn to the Alabama game because of what happened 2 years ago, because of the new coaching changes that have happened with Alabama. And frankly, nobody knows what Alabama's going to look like. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not going to be one of these people who stands up here and saying that, Alabama's a wounded duck with Kalen DeBoer because I don't know about you, but I just saw this guy in the national championship game. Yeah. So he's obviously got credit and caliber, and that's going to mesh with Alabama and the returning talent, just the culture that they have there. So I'm not saying that Alabama is going to be again a wounded duck, but I think that's an opportunity for Tennessee to again make a big statement inside their building. But I also think about the week before that with Florida. What in the world is Florida going to look like with the schedule of death this year? Are they going to try to slip one in against Tennessee the week before? I believe that's October 12th. Tennessee needs to handle business in that game. I certainly think they will, but that could, if things get hairy there, then that Alabama game, it doesn't even warrant being mentioned right now, right? Because that's a totally different story. So it's hard not to be drawn to that Alabama game immediately. But I'll also say this Oklahoma game, and some of it might be the recency bias of hearing about it yesterday, but that's going to be, I heard somebody say from the OU thing, from the OU sector yesterday, that this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest Oklahoma home game in a decade, maybe even more than that. So it's going to be huge for them. Tennessee's got to be able to handle emotions in that game. You don't want a loss in week 4 of the season, especially what happens with North Carolina State, I believe, the week before. So I'm kind of looking at Oklahoma and Alabama as 2 linchpins of Tennessee's season right there. One on the road, one at home.
Yep, and that was going to be my answer as well. And it's if people were to say Florida, I get it completely. I mean, Tennessee just doesn't beat Florida. Tennessee's beaten Florida twice at home since 2004. And even in that game, Tennessee literally tried to say, hey, here's the ball, take it away, take the game. So I get that completely. But, gosh, I mean, Florida, it's just so frustrating because Florida's not a very good football team, wasn't a good football team last year, and Tennessee just didn't show up. But anyway, absolutely, I would say Oklahoma and Alabama as well. Rick, appreciate the time, man, as always. What do you got coming up at Rocky Top Insider the rest of this week?
Yeah, man, we're still going to be rolling some SEC Media Day coverage out. We're hitting a lot of Tennessee angles right now, talking about Cooper Mays' advice to young linemen, talking about the relationship that Josh Heupel has with Brent Venables. Obviously, they go way back all the way to that national championship winning team. So we're still going to be covering all the angles from Tennessee here at SEC Media Days in Dallas, and we're going to get that covered on the website.
Great stuff there from Rick Butler. Give him a follow on Twitter and check out his work over at Rocky Top Insider. Really appreciate him jumping on the show. Boots on the ground from Dallas, Texas. All right. Thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch. Check out Locked On SEC. Make that your second watch here on a Thursday as SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas conclude here today. Tell a friend about this show, please. It's completely free. We're on YouTube, completely free. Subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube and you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us but you're not subscribed to Locked On Vols on Apple or Spotify or wherever, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and download these episodes. Tell a friend more than anything. Let's continue to grow this show and get it in front of more and more people. You everydayers couldn't do this show without you. I'm Eric Kane here with Locked On Vols. Thank you so much. We'll tie a bow on this week, a busy week, as Tennessee continues to inch closer to the start of fall camp. All that and more right here on Locked On Vols.